What's going on, everybody? This is Raw Dawg Sports. I am Mike. That is Evo. I bet if I recommended a game of Quidditch, he'd come in his pants. Evo, what's going on, my ginger? How are you?
Not much. I'm doing really good. Talked before the show. You're tired. I'm tired. We're all tired. I am entering a stretch of a long 40-ish something days of a lot going on in life and everything. Big thing right now. Got the boys back in town. I think that they're probably watching the show right now. So shout out to both Dario and Demetrio. If you're watching the show, love you boys. Glad to have you here in Arizona. And we're about to hit the road via plane tomorrow, bright and early, going off to Florida. Gonna enjoy some Florida vibes. We're escaping the heat here to go to humid heat in Florida. So that's gonna be pretty awesome.
Well, I hate humidity. It's been getting warmer here. It's actually freezing in my basement right now, though, which is why I'm rocking the hoodie. Shout out G in the Riverside Beavers. If there's anything that I know about Raw Dawg, it's Raw Dawg and Beavers just goes together hand in hand. So,
yeah.
What a great mascot for a school, by the way. The Beavers. I want to stay here. Now, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen. I'll be graduating college around this time next year. So if we end up leaving, I don't know what's going to happen. But, if we stay, I feel like we got to maybe stay at Riverside just so I can root on the Beavers out of principle.
Awesome. Yeah, look, like the Beaver is a fantastic mascot. Those bucky teeth, the euphemisms, it goes right alongside Raw Dawg and Raw Dawg Sports. So it seems perfect. Match made in heaven.
Match made in heaven. My man, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We got NBA playoffs still going on. Your squad struggling. Some great things happening for the Indiana squad, though. We've got Major League Baseball. The Rockies are terrible. They're actually being sued. They're so bad. Shohei Ohtani is fucking incredible. I watched him in person yesterday, and he lives up to everything about him. First pitch of the game, hit a piss missile out of the yard. We'll talk about that. We got college football playoff and all the changing of the guard and all the things that are going to happen with the seeding. And then obviously we're going to talk about the NFL. I wasn't sure we were going to get a Hard Knocks this year because I thought they were doing Hard Knocks down there in North Carolina. But apparently we're getting the Bills on Hard Knocks. We're going to talk about who we're excited to see on that, as well as, some guys are back. Aiden Hutchinson is back from injury, fully clear to go. So, my man, are we ready to start kind of diving into this?
Yeah, let's do it, brother.
All right, man. We're going to start with the NBA right now. Your squad down 3-1 in that series. It's been a tough go for you. Questions now about Anthony Edwards and the way he decided to attack or lack of attack in Game 4. So, as an outsider, kind of seeing the way the narrative plays out, and understanding when you have that much pressure on you and you're supposed to be that player, that organization's franchise player, a lot goes into that. And we saw LeBron get killed for his lack of aggressiveness early on in his career, his killer mentality. So I can understand why people are maybe going at this in the same fashion. Where are you at on this? Were you pissed with what you saw? Do you understand some of the vitriol, why people are asking what the hell happened?
Yeah, look, it's tough because leading up to the series, we've seen just kind of a different brand of Anthony Edwards, of Timberwolves and everything. And now there's a lot of questions. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Finger pointing, a lot of it towards the ref and SGA. I was critical of the first game of the series where I didn't think that we had the right guys out there on the court as often as they should be. Obviously game 3 was kind of a blowout, and it felt like it was, OKC kind of taking a rest day. But at the end of the day, you still see some of the same prevalent issues that were talked about before with SGA and the flops. We saw it again yesterday, and it was egregious. But that game still was really close down to the end. It was difficult to watch there at the end when it became a free throw battle. I hate that, like fouling back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's strategy, and you're using the rules, but it just kind of seems asinine. But as far as Edwards, I see the potential in him to be one of the greats in this game. And he has to find the correct balance between his aggression and being a team player, passing the ball around, when to take his threes and things like that. And I don't think that he has completely gotten there yet. He hasn't gotten it fine-tuned, dialed in. And that's kind of what we're seeing. You saw a little bit of that basically the entire playoff, for the Timberwolves, where that first half of the game, it's real slow going, and then he really heats up towards the end. And it felt like in that last game, he had more of a hot beginning of the game to start off, and then just really petered out. And we're not seeing the same Julius Randle that we saw, earlier in this series, even especially in the past 2 series. It's that's made it a little bit difficult. Not having a good 1-2 punch combo there. The threes aren't coming down like we want them to. I'm really hoping that they are able to figure it out by tomorrow night, because obviously that could be the end of the series. We are backs against the wall at this point where, 3-1, down 3-1. So they need to figure things out. I don't assume that we're going to get any sort of help from the league tamping down some of these flops from SGA. I mean, they just getting the MVP trophy. They're probably going to continue to run with that. It's just the amount of free throws is insane. I saw a great shirt that a young fan, a little boy, was wearing to the game, and it said, if I had the same amount of free throws as SGA in a game, I'd average 6.5. And he looked like he was about 10 years old.
Yeah, it's a great shirt.
Yeah. So it was and I'm paraphrasing, it was something along those lines. Either way, great shirt. But yeah, look, we aren't fine-tuned yet. It feels like we got a hot rod team, but not everything is clicking as it should. And I kind of felt that in the previous series, but we were just still so young, dominant, able to power through the second half, the third and fourth quarters of these games, that we were able to outmatch the teams that we were playing against. And look, no doubt OKC is a good team. They're not a team that you can make mistakes on. And that's been probably, I think, through the entire series, the biggest thing for me is just entirely too many turnovers, sloppy play. It feels like they are a little bit discombobulated, a little bit out of their element, which in reality, in the playoffs, that's what's supposed to be weeded out. If you have those errors, if you are a little discombobulated, the better team is going to come out on top. That's exactly what the playoffs are for. And I don't begrudge OKC for taking advantage of our mistakes, because I think that's been the biggest thing, is that the Timberwolves have been beating themselves so far this series.
I can see that for sure. Listen, 3-1 is almost impossible to come back from. Very rare. The Cavs obviously were famously able to do it. We'll see if Ant can kind of pull deep and will this team back into the series. At least give us a couple more games, because I like Anthony Edwards, man. I like watching him play basketball. I thought it was really interesting that in a big moment like that, like, he's not that guy. Like, LeBron was always that dude. Anthony Edwards has always been a guy that I think should take over a game. Like, has the ability to take over a game, go out, dominate, create your own shot, score from anywhere. And I wish you'd have seen more of that in that game.
It's weird, because you look at some of the greats, MJ, Kobe, things like that. They a lot of times got a finger pointed at them for being selfish with how much that they would keep the ball, score, drive. And while that obviously can be a bad thing, like,
so
I think you need a little
win?
Right. I think you need a little bit more of that. And if anything, like, to me, it's weird because of Anthony Edwards' kind of outward personality towards other people in the media and stuff like that, you would think that he's one of those kind of cocky, braggadocious type players that would be a little more selfish with the ball. And I think that we need to see a little bit more of that because he's been a really good teammate as far as being willing to not take the shot, pass the ball, things like that. And he's leaning a little bit too far towards Jimmy Butler from last series and not enough towards some of the greats that I think that he can actually stand up to and be like. And you bring up, it is very hard to come down come back 3-1 in a series. But and this was a surprise to me. Apparently, in NBA playoff history, any team that's won by 40 or more points in a game has never lost a series. And we accomplished that in game 3. I don't like the odds still, to be completely honest, but at least that one's out there. So, if it starts to click, I think that we could have a really interesting series going the rest of the way.
Well, I can guarantee you that if it gets too close, there will probably be a phantom call, whistle, and the league MVP will get a couple of free throws.
It's very possible. Very
possible. Other basketball news. Game 4 underway right now. Indiana and the Knicks. Pacers currently up 16-9. They win this game, they'll take that 3-1 advantage. The Knicks are a good team. They're a scrappy team. Jalen Brunson's a dog. He's a really good basketball player. But everything is just working right now for this Pacers team, it feels like. They have the momentum. Everything is working their way. Halliburton is getting fucking bounces that, like, when things are just falling like that, it feels like you can do no wrong. And when you're playing with that level of confidence, I mean, you're so much harder to beat. And they're a good squad. Siakam is very fucking good. So this Pacers team, I expect to continue to go out and win this series. I think they'll probably win tonight as well, especially getting to be at home.
Yeah. Our old buddy Billy Coleman's big Knicks fan. He actually called this. He said, we're probably going to drop it to the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. I thought that they had a good chance to put up, take it to 7 games. We'll see. Obviously, Pacers ahead right now.
A lot of basketball left.
Very early in the game. But Pacers are there with home court advantage. It makes it, obviously more difficult. Knicks are a good road team. But we'll see.
Look at us talking about the association, just killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it. All right, man. We're going to transition over into baseball. Baseball, a world that I do know a little bit more about. And I got to go watch Shohei and the Dodgers take on the Guardians yesterday. And it was incredible to watch Shohei. First pitch of the game, first at bat, and hits, I think the stat cast, I don't remember what it was, like 112, 114 off the bat. An absolute fucking laser beam out to right field. And every time he swings, dude, I swear to God, it feels like he's going to hit a home run. He's going to have some strikeouts, but God, he is so 115. Producer Amber hopping in there with the comment. Thank you. Dude, it was so fucking fast. He's so good at baseball. The Dodgers are so good at baseball. They're paying astronomical amounts of money to be good at baseball, though. But yesterday I saw something and I had kind of talked to producer Amber about this before. If I caught a home run ball from Shohei Ohtani and I'm the opposing team fan, I don't care what city I'm in. I don't care how much peer pressure there is. There is absolutely no way that I'm throwing the ball back.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple of people like, throw it back. I'm like, if that dude throws that ball back, I'm going to go over there and punch him in the fucking mouth. Shohei Ohtani. I don't give a shit. He's the greatest baseball player I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes. He's incredible.
Yeah, I get it. Obviously, when I was more of a baseball fan, going to games all the time, the thought always came up: you get a home run ball for the opposing team, you throw it back. But there's certain players, like we throw the term generational player around probably more than we should. Yeah. But with Shohei, there's no ifs, ands, ors, or buts about it. He is one of the greats of all time already in his career. And I don't think that it's a far stretch to say that despite the fact that he hasn't played as long as some of those people that we would still put in that echelon. And that's something that, it's the same thing. If Babe Ruth hit a home run, you're not throwing the ball back. Even that, it's way easier to say that hindsight 2020, looking in the past now, but still in the moment, I would have to imagine it's the same sort of feeling.
Yeah. I was shocked. It's like, there's no way. Please, he didn't throw it back. Thank God. Dude that got the ball kept the ball. At least as far as I saw. But I was in shock. I was like, whoever was telling you that is an asshole, first of all. Clearly doesn't understand the gravity of the moment. How important, like how hard it is to catch a home run ball, first off. And then to catch one from arguably going to go down as the greatest baseball player that has ever fucking lived. Yeah, there's no chance of throwing that shit back.
Nope.
Let's stay in baseball, though. We're going to go from really great to really bad. Dude, the Rockies are getting sued because they're so bad that the fans who were at the stadium weren't watching and got hit in the face. Now, their court case has absolutely no chance of holding up. If you read the back of any ticket that you've ever of a Major League Baseball game or on your digital one, it'll tell you you're at risk in this motherfucker. But what a wild scenario. Like, they're so bad that I wasn't watching, and that's why. To take that to court is hilarious.
I still put that on the fan, even with it being bad baseball. And to be clear, the Rockies have still not eclipsed double digits yet. They won one more since we last saw you.
Yeah.
They have 9 wins and 45 losses. But look, at the end of the day, you went to that game. There was an exchange of money somewhere, whether you were gifted the tickets somehow, but there was some sort of an exchange, and you accepted to go to the game. If you were going to not pay attention, if you're going to be on your phone or chit-chatting with other people, you could do that anywhere else outside of a Rockies game. So it's on you. Obviously, the court case isn't going to go anywhere. It's part of society now, where everyone wants to point the finger and say it's not my fault, but this is absolutely 100% your fault. It doesn't mean that the Rockies aren't just ungodly, not worth your time at this point. They're real bad. They're real bad. Not to overlook how bad, like the White Sox still are in our division.
Yeah, they're very bad. The White Sox are still very bad, but our division much better at baseball, I feel like, this year. You guys are coming on.
We are neck and neck. Both 5 games back, 29 and 24. You guys are currently losing, and my Twins are currently leading. We'll see how the night ends. Still plenty of baseball left to go. I saw a shout out about the Kwan Meister from producer Amber today as well, and how excellent he is, and how opposing managers are speaking out about how he's such a pain in my ass.
I mean, he is. Like, if you consider what kind of hitter he is, he's an absolute pain in the ass. He'll just sit there and foul everything off, fight everything off until he can make contact. And he doesn't swing and miss hardly ever. So, yeah, he's probably a colossal pain in the ass to pitch against, but great for my squad. Yeah. My man, baseball news. Other baseball news. I think the Rockies and Shohei Ohtani. I will say this. I haven't watched a ton of Yankees baseball yet, but looking at the numbers, Aaron Judge might have the greatest season in the history of Major League Baseball coming up right now. He's going absolutely ridiculous, like almost 400 average for a guy that's going to strike out close to 150 times, if not more. So everywhere he's hitting the ball, it's just landing. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's the torpedo bat, obviously, and it's made it into MLB The Show now, I believe. I probably saw that. It just got updated into the game, so you too can also put up ungodly numbers.
I will be trying to get a torpedo bat because I got to tell you, I sucked dick at the show this year. Last year, I was so much better. I hit way better. This year, the hitting mechanics, they're not any different, but it feels different as shit, and I'm having a hard time.
Look, sometimes you're in a slump. We see it in actual baseball.
Watching Shohei hit that fucking piss missile over the right field wall. Maybe I'll be able to recreate a little bit of that tonight if I get on the show. Maybe. All right, man. We're going to transition now out of the baseball world. We're going to start talking about football, but not pro football. We got some college football news. Kind of interesting that we, get college football news at this time of year, but the playoff seeding is going to go to just a straight seeding format. 12 teams are going to make it into the fucking playoffs. There's no, you have to be a conference champion. There's no group of 12, none of that shit. So the top 12 teams are getting in. I think there are good and bad elements to this. I wish that there were still some automatic bids for some, maybe a small school, because it worries me that once we get to the point where, we have these super conferences, which we're basically already there, we're going to get 4 teams or 5 teams from the Big 12 or from the Big 10 and 4 or 5 teams from the SEC. And then we'll get 2 or 3 from the Big 12 or 2 or 3 from the ACC. What happens to everybody else's? Because like the Boise State story was cool. We got to see Ashton Jeanty on a massive scale because they were the highest ranking, non-Power 5. So while it's cool that we're going to get the 12 best teams, there has never in college football history been 12 teams capable of winning a national championship in any given year. It's at max like 4 or 5 teams have a shot every year. It's never 12. But we like the playoffs. We want the playoffs. But we don't want to just have a money funnel for these big programs that keep showing up and create their new league. I would like to see a Boise State. Give me a fucking Tulane, something like that, just to mix it up, because I want to see a little bit of parity.
Look, as with anything in life, there's always going to be, pros and cons to everything. The thought process of like your 12 best teams making it to the playoff, that does sound good, because obviously you want the best teams going in these head-to-head matchups to show who is the best. That should be the best brand of football out there for the viewer and the fans who are watching the game. But it does create scenarios like you just brought up where you don't get that parity. We are going to start to see the same old names, though we already kind of do see a lot of the same people over and over again. Ohio State, LSU's, Alabama's, things like that, Georgia. You're probably not going to work into a world where you're not seeing those teams every year. The college football playoff is going to continue to expand, correct, on in the future. I would assume that we're going to get to maybe a 16 team. I
think 12 is too many. 8 would be super cool. I think 8 is the appropriate number. There's never been 12 teams that could win a national championship in 1 year. Max, yeah. I think you can say 4 or 5, like really, like have a legit shot to win it. Now everybody has a chance going in, but that's the shit that you tell everybody, right? Who has a legitimate shot? It's only 4 or 5 teams. So 8, you might get the right number. Now I did see here, I did mess this up. The 5 highest ranking conference champions are still guaranteed a spot. So that happens. Those guys get in. Yeah. But that's, I think, the big time conference champions.
I guess my counter argument to this would be is that you say that you do want to see the parity, right? But if the parity brings in one of those lesser teams that had a really good year versus the people that they play, which might not be as high of difficulty, like really, why should they be there anyways if it's going to kind of be a walkover game? What's the point of the parity at that point? I do believe in, once you get to the playoffs, anything could change. It is much more difficult for that to really happen in college football because some of these programs, what is it, 12 games that they're playing now per year?
Yeah, everybody has a regular season at 12.
So that regular season, a 12 games for a Georgia is going to be way different than 12 games for James Madison Dukes, And not that it's even the same, but I'm, what I'm talking about. Like, it's very different. And so you're going to have what a true 12-win team looks like if someone runs the gambit versus one of those lower conference teams. It is just very much a financial difference because they are paying these players to come there. There are powerhouse schools like that. And that's one of the big issues with how NIL is worked out, how the NCAA is running things. And I know that you've brought this up before, but I think that we're looking at a world here in the near future, the next decade, where the NCAA might not be a thing anymore.
Yeah,
You're
I
already
agree.
having rumblings of SEC saying, we're already a really good brand of football. We might just not be a part of the NCAA anymore. We'll do our own thing and see who wants to come with us. And I bet you a lot of places would consider jumping ship because they're going to be able to utilize their money however they want to and not be under the constraints of the NCAA, which, again, as with everything in life, there's pros and cons to that. We can see some really crazy shit happen if we start to see teams leave and secede from the NCAA.
I want to understand how it's going to work with going to school. Are these kids going to even have to go to school? They have to be student athletes if they're not in the fucking NCAA. Couldn't you just technically then pay kids the NIL money to fucking be on the Alabama team?
We'll feed you, we'll house you, you play for us, and we'll get you a little bit of money on the side. Build our program.
Yeah.
That's what we're working towards. We're working towards almost a semi-professional league. Not that, look, of course, college student athletes do some schooling, and some schools do it better than others. Yeah. But I'm sure there's a lot of guys coming out with communications majors that their communication major is, can you talk? And that's about it. And show up to class and, hey, you're getting a passing grade with a higher GPA than you actually really deserve. That's just the reality of life, though. Yeah, it's real interesting. Look, we already have it in basketball and in baseball. You don't have to go to college to go to these professional leagues.
Yeah.
The NFL would have to make a hell of an adjustment, I think, as well, with who is truly eligible to be drafted. It might lead to a situation where the NFL starts bringing in 18-year-olds, which I don't think is the greatest thing because
terrible idea. You're not grown enough to do that.
It is extremely unlikely, like, and a very big rarity that a kid straight out of high school is mature enough to play in the NFL, grown enough to play in the NFL, has honed their craft enough to play in the NFL. You're talking about just pure.
I just don't think your body is mature enough.
Yeah,
flat out.
For sure. I mean, you see some of these kids go from high school, they're the biggest guy in their high school, but then they get into college and they need to pack on 20 to 40 pounds or more through a full off season of weight training and nutrition and everything like that in order to even be of the requisite size to play. Like, you don't stop growing when you're 18, ladies and gentlemen. You just don't.
Yeah. I don't see how you could do it. But everything's going to involve some money. Money is still involved with this. They're going to change it to the 12 teams. They're going to there are still some conferences you get automatic bids, which will make sense. Those big conferences are going to get their fair share because that's who controls college football. But it'll be interesting to see how seeding works. There was a big complaint about seeding last year about who got what seeds. Ohio State gets a relatively easy route to go through on the playoffs, and they run into Oregon, who is the number 1 seed, who should have had a much easier time trying to get to the Nationals. Shouldn't have to run into fucking Ohio State. So it'll be very interesting to see the way the seeding works now that they're not going to worry about this team has to be here, this team has to be there. So, but all right, brother. But we're going to talk about the NFL. Hard Knocks coming. It's coming again. I didn't think it was happening. When we last talked about Hard Knocks, my understanding was that they were doing a Hard Knocks down in North Carolina with Bill Belichick. Is that what you heard? That was what you knew, right?
Yeah, and I think that they probably are still looking into that. I don't. Maybe the Tar Heel stuff is just a little bit different right now. I don't know how.
Yeah. Well,
everyone is on with that, but it sounds like Bill Belichick might be engaged to a very young woman, his girlfriend, who is very, very involved. And there's been rumblings from very tied-in college reporters who are saying that there's a potential that if this thing keeps devolving, he might not be the head coach for their first game. Like, they could move on. Apparently, it was very much so a split decision from the donors and and board and everything there in North Carolina,
That's not
whether or not
surprised, man.
and that his partner is really making things a lot more difficult. And look, I could see it happening, I guess. Like Bill Belichick, what he was 10 years ago is not the Bill Belichick now. And as you get older, you don't make as good of decisions all the time. We're talking about one of the greatest coaches, if not the
All the
greatest
blood
coach
from his
time.
fucking brain is down in his dick.
Yeah, it's a lot of sildenafil down there. A lot of sildenafil in North Carolina. It's going to be an interesting situation to watch. Everything that I've seen report wise that they were planning on doing some sort of a Hard Knocks there. Hard Knocks has been continually expanding anyways, not just in training camp, but you're getting preseason, midseason, things like that. All sorts of different Hard Knocks out there. They're just expanding their brand, and it makes sense that they might try to expand it to college football, especially following a former NFL coach, one of the greats of all time. And so I haven't heard any hubbub about that, and I still knew that a Hard Knocks was going to take place in the NFL. Just didn't know who until now. Obviously,
I thought
Buffalo Bills.
I didn't know that they were doing one in the NFL as well. I thought they were not going to have it. But the Bills, I'm kind of pumped for that, man. I love Josh Allen. We love Josh Allen on this show. So I'm kind of excited to get to see behind the scenes a little bit more with Josh Allen. He was a guy that played quarterback at the University of Wyoming. That's where I graduated high school. So I actually did pay attention to Josh Allen. Because he went to the University of Wyoming, a team that I wanted to play for in college, because I knew damn well Ohio State wasn't coming to call. But I didn't get that D1 call either. So, however, man, it's going to be really cool. And you know what else I'm excited for? Hopefully, maybe a little bit of Haley shine. We had a lot of Taylor, but now, listen, we were calling for Haley. I want to see more Haley in the NFL. So let's find a way to get her on Hard Knocks.
I can guarantee I would put money that they will do that, because that storyline is going to be run, of course, the quarterback and his side, not side piece, his main piece.
His fucking
his
wife,
only piece, as far as we know.
His only piece. Don't
look,
I don't know what we got to say here to say it.
But there are some interesting storylines definitely to watch there. Of course, watching one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, their process, their life, and everything. I'm sure that's going to be a big part of it. And then you also are going to have the DeMar Hamlin stuff, which is still hanging from when he died on the field and still playing, starting there now. You've got the James Cook contract situation, how that's going to unfold. So there's some decent storylines to watch up there. And obviously they're one of the hotter teams in the NFL, probably one of the hottest teams as far as the AFC teams to make it to the Super Bowl. So having Hard Knocks there is probably going to be a pretty enjoyable experience.
Yeah, man, I think it's going to be pretty cool. I mean, Bills Mafia will probably get a big feature in this thing as well. That's an excellent group of people that you want to have and that you want to interview. Excellent stories, because Bills Mafia, for all the crazy shit that they do, diving through tables and putting motherfuckers through tables, dildos on the field. One thing that they do really well is just are good people as a community in the NFL. They will help other charities. They are nice people. They help out other charities of other teams when they hear something bad has happened, because Bills Mafia is going to get a lot of shine here, and that's going to be really dope for them as well. So I think that'll be one of the cooler parts. That and Haley. Yeah.
No comment.
One more time. I love you, producer Amber.
I get married in a couple weeks here. No comment.
Yep, exactly. I'm already been married for coming up on 10 years. She knows I'm stuck. I ain't going nowhere. All right, man. We got other news. Lions fans, very, very happy. Aiden Hutchinson has been given a clean bill of health. He is going to be full go back at camp. I don't know how much you really want to push him. Obviously, he's been doing a lot of work on his own, getting back to being healthy, making sure that the the Achilles, right?
It was a broken ankle, and I think Achilles as well, but it was a severe ankle.
Okay. I wasn't sure what happened with the whole thing, but listen, he's coming back, and the videos look good. He's cleared. He was a dog. What everybody expected him to potentially be competing for Defensive Player of the Year last year.
I think that
he started out well.
if he had stayed on the pace that he was at,
Yeah.
he was having a historic season, probably going to be the defensive player of the year. Now he's looking at potentially being that comeback player of the year as well from this injury. There was talks about him potentially being able to play in the playoffs for the Lions, which I thought was biting off a little bit more than you could chew. So you don't want to put him in a situation where he could re-injure and then you lose him for this upcoming season. But he was already, kind of running and doing some rehab then. Guarantee that he's doing tons and tons of very specific rehab for his injury now. And you don't have to really push him. We're starting OTAs right now. Our team started their OTAs today. I don't know if the Lions have started yet or not, but there's no need to push him. There's going to be a very, very set rehab plan for him. And look, I expect him to be able to come back to that previous form. He was one of the up-and-coming ascending defensive players in the league already, and then was really showing that potential last year. And while it might take a little bit to become 100%, because while he's getting the clean bill of health, cleared for football activities, you have to learn to trust that body part again. You have to get back into football shape, not just health. So it'll take a little bit, but I'm sure that he'll be good to go come week 1.
Yeah, I would imagine he'll be ready to go. He's going to look to try to pick up on that pace that he was going on last year. Didn't get him much help on the other side. I thought that they would go that way, but they decided to go D tackle in their draft. We'll see what that can do, kind of help them along. And I'm excited for Lions fans. Injuries derailed what could have been a Super Bowl season for them last year. They were on an absolutely terrific pace, and they just got so beat up throughout the entire year. Now they lose a couple of coaches. We'll see if they can come back and still be as good and as dominant as they were. Aiden Hutchinson will have new coach kind of in his ear talking to him. So there'll be a big step there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I can't remember if I talked about this before last show or during last show, but the Lions are going to have a hell of a season. New coaching staff outside of, Motor City Dan Campbell, and a very, very difficult schedule. They're playing a lot of tough teams on the road. It's going to be some big hill. They have high expectations because we've seen how good they can be. The talent on the team is still the talent that they have there. They didn't make a lot of moves to necessarily get better, but it always seems like they get the most out of the guys that they do bring in there. So they're still going to be a good team, still going to be tough, but they probably have one of the more difficult paths towards the playoffs of that NFC North group this year. They're going to need Hutchinson for that at full strength.
Yeah. Listen, they got a tough schedule. They could be and should still be pretty good. I know that you have some worries, some thoughts. We'll talk about all that as we go through our predictions come up here in a few weeks. But I think that there is a potential that they can still have a very, very good year if they can remain healthy. Health is going to be a crucial part of that for them. Other NFL news, just because I think this is hilarious and it's still a storyline. Mr. Rudolph is going to start at quarterback, maybe, I think. And if he does, I'm good with that. Thank you, Steelers. But if not, I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers, and that news I expect to be coming very soon with OTAs and the talk of camps. Somebody's going to let something leak here pretty soon. I'm going to guess that's going to give an inkling about where Aaron Rodgers is going to go, whether that's the couch or Pittsburgh, because those are the only two options at this point. No other team is going to want to sign him at this point unless there is a very bad injury. But I still don't know any team that would want to bring him in, though.
Yeah,
given an injury.
I think it was Jeremy Fowler who was talking, saying the Vikings technically are not off the table. They think that he's still holding out hope that they want him. Look, this is, again, Vikings OTAs started today. This is the first time JJ McCarthy has been back out there on the practice field wearing a helmet, limited pads and everything, but in that kind of QB1 role. The next couple days and the rest of this offseason program leading up to training camp is really, you got to prove that you're the guy. Because if there is setback injury wise, or it looks like, despite all the positive things that we've heard, if he doesn't look like he is ready to take the reins of this team that is, for all intents and purposes, ready to make a strong playoff push outside of the unknown of the quarterback position, that's when you could have the Aaron Rodgers stuff creep back in. And I feel like that's what he's kind of holding out for is any team to have a catastrophic injury that he would want to then play for, or specifically for the Vikings, if they don't feel 100% about JJ McCarthy, where he's at, being ready to lead this team this year. I would put the odds extremely low that he comes here. I believe he also did some sort of an interview in Chicago where he was asked, would you play for the Bears? And he said, no, but I think I'm going to be playing here this year. Like I'll be playing in Chicago this year, but not for Chicago.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, obviously playing in Chicago this year. Obviously the Vikings are too. So again, that doesn't completely narrow down everything. He, spoke about how he doesn't have any want to live in Louisiana. So the Saints are off the table there. So it is pretty narrowed down here. And it's typical narcissistic Aaron Rodgers, keep myself in the spotlight, make everyone, wait to see what I do. He wants kind of that, limelight on him, the spotlight, because as a veteran, as who he is, outside of all the terrible, terrible things that we know about him as a human being, if he were to sign with Pittsburgh, you don't really have to do anything until training camp. You don't have to go out on the field. You don't have to put in any extra work. It would help to maybe learn the playbook and, get some camaraderie with your teammates and things like that. But you don't have to go and do anything. He can still enjoy the rest of his off season. And
I'm so sad that George Pickens isn't going to be there to beat the shit out of him, though.
Yeah, look, that would be the best sort of storyline. But in reality, I think this is just an Aaron Rodgers, I want the spotlight to remain on me, because as soon as he signs with Pittsburgh, there's going to be a pop for a week, and then it's going to die back down to nothing until we get into training camp for the regular season. So this is his way of kind of trying to stick into it. And by the way, Danika Patrick, see that little interview that she did?
I did not.
Oh, yeah. She talked about the lowest point of her life was when she was with him, how he is emotionally abusive. That's the second time female partner of his has said that it was the most emotionally abusive person that they've been around and lowest point in their life. And it just kind of, when that keeps showing up, it's the same thing with Deshaun Watson. One massage therapist says he did something funny. 22 or however many we're up to now, it starts to make you think man, maybe they're not all lying. Maybe there's some credibility.
In the interest of fairness, let's go ahead and throw Justin Tucker in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going on there other than the fact that he no longer is a part of the Baltimore Ravens. So
no, I'm always sure that he was getting his meat tugged on too at the massage parlor. But
look, innocent until proven guilty. But the court of public opinion also exists, and it is a tough one to overcome.
Motherfucker, dude. Yeah. It really, really is. Interesting that Kirk Cousins is not at OTAs. Do you care? Does it matter?
No, because I think we already kind of knew what was going on here. Penix is the starter. Cousins is willing and wanting to move. It is tough to move him with that contract. And I think that the Falcons are kind of saying, hey, either this is a sunk cost and we get a high-end backup quarterback if need be, or if someone has a quarterback go down, we could probably trade this guy and get something in return. But it is not uncommon for veterans, for well-established starters to not show up. Justin Jefferson typically has not shown up to OTAs because it's not really necessary. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league. He doesn't necessarily need those extra reps. He showed up this year, though.
Yeah, well, it's because he got a brand new quarterback.
Yeah. They're hanging out at the Timberwolves games. They're got lockers next to each other. They're hanging out at his house. They're trying to build that relationship. And JJ being out there, it warms my heart. It makes me feel good. He's bought into this and getting tied in with his new quarterback. I love it. But it's not uncommon, so I'm not really reading into it too much. I wouldn't have expected Kirk Cousins to show up because, again, without the contract stuff going on, veteran quarterback, knows the system, professional, doesn't work on Tuesdays anyways. So why
does not definitely does not work on Tuesdays.
Yes, famously.
Famously. Man,
Thanks, quarterback on Netflix.
Man, what a good series. Wide receiver was good too, man. That's what I should do when I graduate from college. That's where I want to work, is for like Omaha Productions or something like that. That'd be a sick job.
Very cool. Hey, you could get in on the golf game. Omaha Productions just invested heavily in good golf.
Ooh.
That's why they're doing all the different YouTube shows with NFL players now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
We're looking into that. I cannot fucking wait to graduate college, dude. I am so tired. Summer internship and 1 more year, bro, and I'm done.
Very cool.
I actually think that we're about done for today's show as well. I mean, I don't know if we got much else to go over. Do you got anything, my man?
No. Look, it is quiet time for sports right now. Obviously, OTA is going on. We'll keep a watch on potential injuries and stuff like that. It always happens. Non-contact injuries, season-ending stuff. That's typically where the knee injuries and whatnot happen. It could be a thing that rears its ugly head here. It's not something we're looking forward to, but it's something that typically does happen. We'll try to keep you all informed through the socials and the show if that does happen, or any other storylines kind of pop up through OTAs. But right now, it is kind of the quiet time of the NFL season. We're going to get these, couple days of OTAs, and then pretty much radio silence until we start hitting that training camp time.
All right, man. Let's wrap this thing up. Yeah, because it is quiet time. I'm tired. You're tired. We both smoked a couple of pork butts over the last couple of days. I'm fucking exhausted. So let's wrap this bad boy up, guys. This is Raw Dawg Sports. I'm Mike. That's Evo. We will not be back. Oh no, we will be back next week. A couple weeks from now, we're not going to be here. Evo's getting married. He's going to Vegas. I'm going to. And I don't think we're doing a podcast from Vegas. Not unless we get shithoused and decide to do something wild.
Yeah. More likely a TikTok or something like that.
Yeah, that seems more like what's going to happen. But guys, thank you very much. Anytime that you spend some time with us, we are forever grateful. Time is the most valuable commodity that you have. So anytime you give it to us, we couldn't say any more thanks. With that, we are going to get the fuck out of here. We will be back next week. See ya!